Alright guys, welcome to VALORANT News. Absolute chaos as the playoffs get underway around the world. Gen.G on the verge of elimination from World Championship qualification. It is very much on a razor-thin line at this point after a massive result that we saw yesterday. Big drama in the Americas as well, with some of those results not going the way the 100 Thieves would want if they want any chance of winning the playoffs and at least making it to the finals to try and make it to the World Championship over the coming days. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. We're going to begin here. So, Koi. Their roster this season, not gone to plan. We'll have a look at some of the results in a second from the European side. Of course, didn't make it to the playoffs. Now, eBay from Movistar Koi, of course, one of the biggest content creators on the planet from the Spanish scene, basically says next year is going to be the first year, which is kind of interesting, that the roster will actually be the roster that we want it to be, rather than kind of mishmash together and decided with other factors. So Ebar's like, okay, next year is the year. We're going to build a proper roster, and it's actually going to be good. And if it goes badly, then it's our fault. But, you know, we know how the Valorant team works. It's difficult, right? If your team's bad, you only play a few games and your season's chalked, right? Like, it's very difficult to qualify for the internationals. You've just got to be really good all the time. And that is a challenge for multiple teams. There was also some rumours around Nismo and Evil Geniuses. So just something to throw around there, right? And I know that it was denied by multiple sources, but with Nismo tweeting this, it does make you wonder. EG, are they going to blow it up? Now, let's not forget when EG brought in Demon 1 halfway through the season before, and went on to do what they did in 2023. Would I be totally shocked that right about now Evil Geniuses believe that their current roster is not capable of winning or making the grand finals of the playoffs and therefore qualifying for the World Championship? I think that's a reasonable assessment, that right now they're simply not good enough. So, are you dropping Icy? What are you doing? Icy denied it, others denied it as well, so maybe it's not going to happen. But just a theory, right, that, you know, there were rumours that Superman wasn't there anymore and Icy was gone. We don't really know what that is, and maybe they'll just turn up with the same roster. But Nismo tweeted this out and made some people think, could there be some sort of a connection there on Evil Geniuses? Would they decide to make this last-minute Hail Mary attempt to at least give themselves a chance going into the playoffs? Maybe that is true, maybe it is not. Now, to the credit of Vitality, they did make it through. By the skin of their teeth, but they did make it through. We'll see the result that made that possible in a second. The other funny game in Europe was this one, right? So this was Liquid, who were the number 1 seed, versus KC, who are going to be the number 4 seed anyway. Now, the remarkable thing about this is that there was nothing to play for in this series, really. Like, it was just pride. Liquid were going to be first. KC were going to be 4th. But it was just an absolute banger series. Like, every map went to an overtime. It was 14-12 to Liquid on the Lotus, it was 15-13 to KC on the Binds, and then it was 14-12 on the Sunset. So, like, crazy banger. Sugetsu had some big moments here. Now, of course, they made the change, right? They brought in Pyrol, and they got rid of Elite. They brought in Pyrol. He didn't have a great debut, it's got to be said. But they did win, right? Sugetsu and Martin did enough to get the win. So, I don't know, we'll see, right? I think for KC, you can't take too much away from this. As banger of a series as it was a meaningless series at the end of the day. This, however, was not. Certainly not for Vitality. BBL versus for esports. Obviously, big battle of the Turkish scene, really. But it was the slightly less Turkish team that get the win on this occasion. So it was a very competitive series, as you would expect, really, here. But BBL scrape over the line on the Sunset, 13-11, and then they win the Ascent on for esports map pick 39. So that was huge in the end for, well, Yampi and BBL, but also for Team Vitality, because therefore the bracket looks like this in Europe. Vitality made it. It wasn't convincing, but they did make it in the end. The bracket ended up looking like this. So Vitality, because they beat for esports in the head-to-head, they did make it as the 4th seed. Not ideal, but they made it anyway as the 4th seed. And, well, this is what the bracket looks like. So Heretics and Liquid, they get the buys. Heretics will play the winner of Fnatic BBL. I mean, that's a stacked upper side of the bracket. Giantex, Na'Vi, Liquid. Of course, Fnatic already going to the World Championship. They've got enough points. Nobody else is locked in quite as of yet. For teams like Vitality, of course, they will have to rely on making a crazy losers bracket run to the World Championship. Whether they can pull that off, that's another question. But we saw the series start to unfold yesterday, and we got the resolution shortly afterwards. RRQ versus Gen.G. Now, we know that RRQ, they've caused problems to Gen.G in the past, but this time, given all the circumstance, it just felt like Gen.G was surely destined to go on and win it, but that's not what happened. Despite winning the game 13-10, despite going up 10-2 on the sunset, like, you can't make this stuff up. They literally went up 10-2 on their attacking side. It was an absolute demolition job. I mean, if you look at the defense here for both sides, it was tough. But on the second side, RRQ put together an absolute steamroll attacking side themselves, won their sunset 13-11, and turned up to the corrode, and Gen.G, mentally weren't able to recover. Just an unbelievable result for Gen.G. They brought in Lakia recently. We thought they might drop Ash for Lakia. They didn't, and well, Lakia may not have a chance to play for the team because they might not be playing ever again. Now they're out of the playoffs immediately. So just absolutely crazy for them to bottle it this bad on the sunset and end up losing the series, and that puts them in such a precarious position. Gen.G do a post and say, look, thanks for the to the team for their time and for the fans for their support, but what an absolutely abysmal... I mean, I don't understand how Gen.G keep doing this, where they look like the best team on the planet, or at least very close to it, and then all of a sudden they just... Well, they're still good, but they just lose their heads. Anyway, this is what it means. So in the Pacific, Paper X have qualified. They're at 19 points. They're guaranteed to be there at the World Championship. T1, DRX, Gen.G, Talon, RRQ. So it's all to play for, as we know. So Gen.G are at 12 points and they're stuck there, right? They're stuck at 12 points. Now, can they still make it to champs? Yes, assuming that the teams, basically that teams below them don't make it to champs in the grand finals result. Otherwise, if Talon make the finals, then Gen.G are cooked, obviously, right? And that's only one series away at this point. So there's a few things that need to go Gen.G's way for them to even make it. So they need Talon to lose, basically. They need Talon to bomb out. They need Nongshim to bomb out. We'll see how that's going on in a second here. And RRQ must go down to DRX because they basically need the status quo to remain as it is if Gen.G are going to make it. So it's not impossible for them to make it, but like, wow, they've made the life for themselves incredibly challenging right now. So this is the playoffs, how the bracket looks. They need, like, desperately, Gen.G need Talon to lose, right? Because they need Paper X, DRX, or T1. They need two of those three teams in the finals so that, nobody else qualifies, right? And that's definitely plausible, but it's far from a guarantee. Like, they need multiple results, Gen.G, to go their way. And definitely those results that need to go their way are likely, but they're far from a guarantee. So the T1 game has just concluded. They took down Nongshim 2-0. Nongshim, pretty cool story for them, right? Because of their win against DFM, they actually made it so that Boom Esports, because of the points and everything, they at least get to fight for their spot in Ascension. So both Nongshim and Boom Esports will be at Ascension fighting for their return. But Nongshim eventually went down. It was pretty dominant from T1 in the end. They lost a couple of thrifty rounds, but it was 13-6, 13-9. And RB really tried his best to put the team on the back on the ascent. But in the end, it was just not quite good enough. So T1 advance on. They're looking still pretty solid, despite their loss to Paper X, of course. So that will maybe make Gen.G a little bit happier. But then, of course, the RRQ versus DRX game, which is just getting underway. And well, RRQ are up 2-1, right? So already, I'm not saying already, right? But if RRQ make a run here, then Gen.G are compromised. They are very compromised indeed. Now, let's talk about the Americas. There was some drama going on there. Era has been pretty supportive of 100 Thieves making the run. That now seems pretty unlikely. FNS gives his perspective in the replies. It was nice to see a really great series here from Ethan. We kind of got a glimpse of the Ethan of old, the Ethan I remember watching in Counter-Strike, the Ethan of Valorant in 2023 as well. And not like that Ethan isn't there anymore, obviously, right? But like as a player, Ethan's still phenomenal. And it was nice to see some glimpses of like, okay, damn, that's where he's been for a little while. And clearly the ability is still in there. It's just things haven't gone to plan for him just as of late. But Ethan, they get the win. NRG take the 2-1 against Crew Esports. It was a competitive affair, but they do get the win in the end. And, well, that's what Som has to say. Crew not quite putting together a run this time than they did before, But NRG, they managed to top their group. So despite losing the Sunset 13-6, they then bounced back on the Lotus. On their Lotus, they won it 13-7, and then they won the decider in pretty emphatic fashion in the end, as I say, with Ethan with a big takeover on that final map. So that's the NRG series. We'll see how it transpires in terms of standings in a second. But this was 100 Thieves, and this was actually just really bad, right, for 100T, because, well, the question with 100T has been, okay, Xander's now going to be the in-game leader, Kess is coming in, they had their honeymoon period. Was it going to be sustainable? Now, Sato is that guy, right? Like, he's that guy, and he deserves a lot of credit. But still, for 100T, to win the Haven, they won the Haven 13-10, dominant defensive side. Cryo, Kess, everyone delivering. They then go to a Sunset, they lose it 13-10. Like, okay, whatever, right? Like, Sato had a good map on the Neon. It was their map pick, Lev's map pick, it happens, but, at least on the decider, you want to be competitive, right? But they turn up to Lotus and they get 13-2 absolute demolition jobs. Sato's 24-7 on the raise, they get 10-2s on the first half and then completely mentally collapse. So, it's, this is problematic, right? Because getting 13-2'd on your opponent's map pick if you don't play it, fair enough. But if ever you've got like a really big discrepancy on the decider, it's usually because either the team mentally collapsed on the previous map, which maybe 100T will feel like they should have done better on the Sunset here, given, at a time it was 9-8 anyway in their favor. And then Lev kind of brought it back and ended up winning it. But it's not like they choked this map exactly and mentally collapsed. But yeah, if you lose the Lotus on a decider 13-2, it just shows your map pool is terrible. I think that's really the takeaway. Deciding map should always at least be somewhat competitive. To look totally lost on it is, concerning for sure. And I think the 100T have a lot to think about when it comes to the state of their map pool, really. Look, Asuna says, we'll be in playoffs anyway. Sorry, we'll be better. But still a pretty important one to lose in some respects in terms of momentum going forward. Com says, got the good momentum now. The push starts now with the squad. So, 100T, they end at 3-2. So, not a disaster by any means, but with NRG winning and 100T at 3-2, Lev at 3-2, it is what it is. Crew made it through anyway at 2-3. Now, Loud and MIBR are still yet to play one another, but the winner of that, whoever's 2-3, Loud lost to Crew, right? So Loud lost to Crew here, 2-1, and MIBR lost to Crew as well, 2-1. So whoever's 2-3, Crew is going to get the nod into the playoffs anyway, and then, well, Group A is yet to conclude, and we're about to see the long-anticipated Furia Evil Geniuses game, which I absolutely cannot wait for. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.